this edition of Daily Trail Markers, a powerful labor union in Nevada announced on Thursday it will not endorse any Democratic candidates ahead of the state's caucuses.
We're not going to endorse a candidate, a political candidate. We respect every single political candidate right now. We know they are great people.
The Culinary Union is Nevada's largest labor organization. It also represents a huge number of immigrants with members from nearly 180 countries. The union includes 60,000 housekeepers, porters, and bartenders who work in Las Vegas casinos. For more on this and other news from the trail, let's bring in CBS News 2020 campaign reporters Alex Tin and Tim Perry. Alex is in Las Vegas, where he covers Nevada, and Tim is in Houston with the Bloomberg campaign. So, Alex, let's go ahead and start with you. Why did the Culinary Union decide not to endorse anyone? It seems like a lot of influence that they've decided just to throw away.
Well, you have to understand that it's not like the Culinary Union is sitting out this contest. After all, what you saw both in the announcement today and we've seen for months from the labor group is that they've made very clear their stance on one key issue when it comes to the presidential contest, and that's Medicare for all single-payer health care proposals like the kind that are supported by Senator Bernie Sanders. You saw that manifest just a few days ago when the union decided to start handing out some flyers, making very clear that they felt a Sanders-style Medicare for all single-payer system would undo their hard-won union health care victories and harm their members. Now, to be clear, that is not the position of all of its fellow Unite Here Union locals. In fact, Unite Here Union locals just over the border in California and in Arizona have made endorsements of Bernie Sanders or Elizabeth Warren explicitly because they support Medicare for all and want a presidential candidate that will fight for it. So if anything, the story here is the Culinary Union's break from that Medicare for all position, their desire to not endorse a candidate that is backing Medicare for all, and them making very clear that while they respect all of the candidates, they just do not want their members to back a candidate that supports Medicare for all.
So it's not that they're making an endorsement, it's like they're making an anti-endorsement.
Almost, yes.
All right. Well, Alex, also, Nevada Democrats say that they'll replace their caucus app with iPads and Google Forms in the wake of the mess that came out of the Iowa caucus. How is that also expected to work?
So with just 2 days until early voting starts right here in Nevada and barely more than a week until the final ultimate caucus day when those results are going to be tabulated and decided, the state party today finally released a memo outlining some key details about how that process is going to work. We know now that instead of the app that was developed in the wake of the Iowa scandal, they're going to be using a Google form called a so-called, quote, caucus calculator that will assist precinct chairs in basically doing the math of not only getting in those early vote results, but also combining that with the people in the room to decide who is viable, who should get delegates from that room, figure out those final numbers with hopefully less errors than we saw out of the Iowa caucus, and then finally report those results to the state party. Now, the coming challenge in the days until those, both the early vote and the caucus on February 22nd, is the state party is going to need to train thousands of volunteers to use this caucus calculator. But fortunately, from what I'm hearing from county parties here in Nevada, volunteers are not just liking the tool, this so-called caucus calculator. They think it will be beneficial for them and hopefully will smooth the process come February 22nd.
All right, Tim, let's go ahead and turn on over to you. President Trump and former New York City Mayor Michael Bloomberg spent much of the day on Thursday swapping insults on Twitter. You were at Bloomberg's event in North Carolina on Thursday. How's he playing that on the campaign trail?
Well, this is playing right into the hands of former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg. This is a fight that he wants to have with President Trump. He wants to take the fight directly to him and not his fellow Democrats. So today at a rally in Greensboro, North Carolina, and just a quick reminder, early voting starts today in North Carolina. Former New York Mayor Mike Bloomberg, first he responded on Twitter calling him a barking carnival clown, an expression I had never heard before, and just saying that the people in New York, they know a lot of the same people. They're both very wealthy New Yorkers. Bloomberg saying that a lot of those people are laughing at President Trump. And Bloomberg also saying today at the rally that he thinks that President Trump is afraid of him. He thinks that he sees some of these recent polls that are coming out showing Bloomberg gaining a lot of momentum and a lot of steam. And he's saying that, I have the resources, I have the record, and I can take on Donald Trump directly. And again, this is a fight that he wants to have with him. A common line on his stump is saying, I am running to defeat Donald Trump. He also says, if I do not win, God forbid, he always adds, he will support the eventual Democratic nominee, which would include handing over at least part of the infrastructure that he's building nationwide, and in particular in some of these battleground states that will be key in November this fall.
I'm with you, Tim. I've not heard carnival barking clown as an insult. I've heard about carnival barkers. I've heard of clowns, but that's the first time that that's all been put together for me. But Bloomberg has also had to spend some time out there on the trail answering questions about recordings about about racially sensitive topics, stop and frisk. The former mayor of New York has since apologized, but is he still getting a lot of blowback, or is his campaign and the people that you're hearing from out there on the trail really moving on?
Well, he had to answer questions on that front yesterday at an event in Chattanooga. Reporters asked him about that, and he says, those comments do not reflect how he governed when he was mayor of New York, and in the aftermath, he's been unleashing a whole lot of support, or he's been getting a whole lot of support from notable Black Americans. He released 3 endorsements from Congressional Black Caucus members just the morning after. He had a whole list of Black faith leaders who are all throwing their support behind him, and they're all saying, that's not our guy. We know him to have done a lot of good for the Black community. And you mentioned earlier, I'm in Houston, Texas, where he will be unveiling a new initiative, Mike for Black America, which will add on to some of the efforts that he put out in his Greenwood initiative, which focuses on Black economic inequality. And that will also include an endorsement today from the Houston mayor, mind you, a Black person, Sylvester Turner. And Houston is one of the most diverse cities in the country. So while we are still talking about that, he's trying to move forward. And again, he received a lot of help from the president. Again, the president tweeted shortly after the audio leaked, he allegedly called Bloomberg a racist, and it made it possible for Bloomberg to, make the case again that he is in no way, shape, or form a racist, and was able to compare his record to that of the president's, who has in the past seen some problems with a lot of Black voters.
Yeah, Tim, it certainly seems like the Bloomberg campaign knew that they were going to have questions about stop and frisk, and seemed to have everybody ready to roll out their endorsement, particularly in the Congressional Black Caucus and among Black leaders throughout the country. Alex Tin, Tim Perry, thank you both.